Now, the holiday season is supposed to be a time of cheer, celebrations, and an opportunity to spend time with family and friends. But for some, it can be a period filled with sadness, loneliness, and anxiety. So, for how to cope with holiday stress and depression, I'm joined by clinical psychologist Viwe Dweba from the South African Depression and Anxiety Group. Viwe, thanks very much indeed for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
And I suppose the thing with depression is that despite the bonuses, despite the Christmas cheer, you cannot get someone in this condition out of that capsule by just saying it's the sign of happy times. It doesn't work that way, does it?
It definitely doesn't. I think we often think of depression as just sadness.
Yeah.
It's as simple as I'm sad all the time, and it's so much more than that. It's a pervasive kind of low mood that you can't actually shake off, because when you're suffering from depression, there's an actual imbalance that's happening in your brain chemically. So what you really need is some treatment, and obviously this depends on, kind of the severity of the depression, but we definitely need to start thinking of depression as something that isn't just a sadness that we can shake off. It's a real struggle. It's a real illness.
And I suppose the start would be, how do you differentiate between someone that's just feeling down for a period and that same someone knowing that he or she has a particular condition? And I suppose that identification is somewhat of a challenge sometimes, isn't it?
It really is. And I think it's such an important distinction, because there are very normal responses to some of the things that we go through in life. Life throws us with so many things, with grief, with losing our jobs, with financial difficulty. And there is a normal response of sadness when we're experiencing these things. Grief is a normal response as well. With depression, what we're looking at are actual very real changes in your functioning, as well as some symptoms that we can talk about now. So we speak about neurovegetative symptoms, which is really just about, is my body doing what it's supposed to be doing? So we're looking at sleep. Am I sleeping more or sleeping less? So insomnia or hypersomnia. Changes to my appetite. Am I eating more? Am I eating less? Which will have an impact on your weight gain, weight loss. Memory difficulties, also something that we look at. Difficulties concentrating. Very physical things that we're looking at. And then we're looking at our mood as well. Is it a pervasive low mood that I experience every day? So it's, despite what's happening around me, I struggle to enjoy things, even the things that you usually enjoy. If, for instance, you are someone who enjoys taking walks outside, appreciating a spring day, even the flowers don't look as colorful. And what we look at in terms of the grades of depression, in terms of whether it's a mild depression, a moderate depression, or a severe depression, is the impact that all these changes have on your functioning. So with a mild depression, you may not necessarily need medication. Some therapy could help you get through it, whether that's one-on-one therapy, or we're looking at a support group, even some telephone counseling as well.
Let me come in here. I mean, it's one thing to get past that barrier and identify these things, but I mean, I think human behavior is such that it's another challenge to say, I'm going to need help. And whether or not that help is accessible. Different parts of this country and different demographics have different accessibility. I suppose that's another big challenge for us South Africans, isn't it? Oh
my goodness, yes. I mean, if we're talking about access to mental health care services, even in the public and the private sector, actually, there are such real challenges. It's often quite expensive, even in the private sector. And what you'll see in a lot of our state institutions is just how overburdened the the system is, so there are a lot of people who need help and not enough hands to do the work. And then that contends with the stigma around mental health altogether. To be able to say to myself, I need help, I need to go see a psychiatrist, I need to go see a psychologist, I need to find a counselor, I'm struggling. To be able to say that to my family, to my friends, that is a whole other challenge.
Well, I'm afraid we have to leave it there, but of course, if anyone's watching this interview and saying, look, the thing is, I'll take the next step, how do they get hold of you guys or someone who does something very similar to you?
So SADAG and Lifeline are wonderful counseling services, so they offer telephone counseling as well. There are psychologists in the private sector, just a Google search will help. in hospitals as well, or in most state clinics, you'll find psychologists or psychiatrists. If you find that you feel that you're really at risk, you can literally walk into the casualty of a hospital and say, I feel like I'm not going to, I'm struggling to make it through this day. I'm really struggling. I may hurt myself. Can I get some help? And someone will be there to help you.
Viwe, thanks very much indeed. Viwe Dweba is from the South African Depression and Anxiety Group.